Welcome back. Welcome back. Today I want to talk to you about something academics broke down. The real story behind TikTok, the government pressure, and the role of AI. Because this isn't just about entertainment. This is about control. TikTok didn't grow by accident. It grew because its algorithm is one of the most powerful attention systems ever created. It learns what you like, what you watch, what you skip, what makes you emotional. Then it feeds you more of it. That's artificial intelligence at work. And that's why governments are nervous. TikTok isn't just an app, it's a data machine. It collects information on behavior, habits, locations, interests, and trends. That data is extremely valuable, not just for ads, for influence, for narratives, for culture, for politics. That's why TikTok keeps getting questioned and investigated. It's not about dancing videos, it's about who controls the algorithm. When a platform controls attention, it controls markets. It decides what goes viral, what gets buried, who gets famous, who gets ignored. And most creators don't own any of that. They're building audiences on rented land. One policy change, one ban, one algorithm shift, and everything disappears. That's the real risk. Now add AI into this. AI is making content faster, cheaper, easier to mass produce. Soon, thousands of videos can be generated automatically. That means attention is about to get even more competitive. More noise, more saturation, less organic reach. So the creators who survive won't just be talented, they'll be strategic. They'll build email lists, websites, communities, products, brands outside the app. They won't rely on one platform. Academics is showing that TikTok isn't just a trend. It's part of a bigger system where data, AI, and attention are becoming a new currency. And if you don't understand that, you're just feeding the machine. So the lesson is simple. Use platforms, don't depend on them. Build your own brand, your own audience, control your future. That's the real TikTok story.
Art is real, money is fake. Limited run, link in bio.
Guy, you like to really be the guy who knows the shit. You need to know the business, and everything else will make sense, right? When you see some random bullshit, and it might even be as bullshit as a rapper being unhappy, a rapper not dropping the music. If you understand the inside baseball shit going on, you'll always be fine. So there has been a deal to secure TikTok's life as a company within the United States, all right? If you don't know the history of TikTok, TikTok was a social media company that was founded by a company called ByteDance, which is a Chinese company, right? I don't like to put it on the screen when I'm talking about it. So a Chinese company called ByteDance made TikTok. It surged to the top of the leaderboard, pretty much, essentially, as one of the most popular apps, but definitely the most popular app when it came to Gen Zers. So, you know, the youngest of kids, which a lot of people admit in music, they control the trends, they make the dances. They pick TikTok as their app of choice. This would be where they would, you know, do challenges, make, you know, dances to songs. And quickly it was realized that within the music industry, TikTok was very, very important in promoting music. I want to give you a quick history. Hopefully you guys are not bored. I know it is late, but I do know you guys can watch this later, and I want you guys to have some real information. In the early days of TikTok, TikTok did what most companies do, even Twitch. They basically allow their users to do what they want to do. And oftentimes users want to make content but also included music. Now, technically, you can't have people using music because, you know, I've always told you the reason why independent labels don't overrun major labels, they own catalog, right? So major labels always use catalog as their leverage, but TikTok and newer apps, they'll allow their audience to do whatever, which their audience is going to start using music, because we listen to music all the time, right? It's not just we, everybody. However, it's not technically legal. Now, it's usually like this little song and dance because like the app will be like, we're not telling them to do it. It's user-generated content, right? It's like when when the movie industry came at YouTube and YouTube said, well, we're not telling people to steal your movies. The people are doing it. It's not us. And then basically they came to eventually a Congress legal negotiated deal when there was actually a law actually passed. It was called the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, which basically said that, hey, because the movie industry wanted YouTube and all the other people to say, hey, you got my movie on there. What the fuck? Yo, we need billions of dollars. And YouTube was like, yo, we're not telling people to put up your movie or steal parts of your TV show. What the heck? It's Johnny who has his phone. It's YouTube. It's his thing. Sue him, not us. The negotiated thing over time, and obviously, YouTube had to make sure that they could survive as a company, because if they had to pay out for what every user did, they would not exist. They lobbied Congress. Ultimately, a law was passed, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. And that created a way where companies that felt infringed on, for example, the movie industry and others, they could actually have a law that would kind of be the framework of how they would deal with people infringing on their rights, right? So, for example, they could no longer sue YouTube directly as long as YouTube provided a way for them to show that they were being serious about not allowing people to steal their shit. So, for example, part of for YouTube would say, hey, if our users do this 3 times, we ban them for life. We delete their account. Hey, if you submit a takedown request, we'll put an automated thing on it. They have to respond, or we take them down, and we not only take their video down, we give them a strike, which is a punishment. That was something that was negotiated and understood. And, seeing the changing of technology, that became the thing, right? Why do I bring that up? Because these compromises oftentimes have to be struck for these companies to live. Right? Imagine YouTube if, literally you cannot use or react to anything, right? Or you can, speak about something that's owned by Warner Brothers or Universal Pictures or whatever the case is, right? Or Lionsgate. But such is the case with TikTok and even Twitch in its early state. I always told you why. Remember, I told you I had a deal with Twitch, and for them, they were trying to get a leverage. And I'm going to tell you what their fight was. So I told you kind of with YouTube and the music industry, they were like, well, not music industry, it was really the movie industry, right? Yo, people are stealing our shit. They're like, yo, we're not doing it. It's not us doing it. And then also in that with the Copyright Act, they also created laws because there was a whole battle when it came to copyrights. It was also kind of established that certain things were protected under free speech, right? It was not necessarily infringement, but it was also you could create new content with old content. And, that's kind of the basis and the groundwork for fair use, right? Which a lot of people use, right? So me reacting to someone's content, I'm not stealing necessarily. I'm protected under fair use. So all those things kind of got figured out through courts, through lawsuits. It was a shit show, but it happened. What that means, again, that's an analogy for me talking about TikTok. I'm telling you, Twitch also went through this. But TikTok, when it starts getting really popular among teens, and it's now like surging up the charts. I remember it was like, it was consecutively number 1 in the social media app category for like ages. The music industry says, whoa, 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 whoa. If you guys remember an app called Triller, kids used to get on there and just kind of like do dances or do whatever thing over music. Well, TikTok was like the better version of that, and it had this algorithm that's just unbeatable. You can't beat the TikTok algorithm. It's just the best. So the music industry comes in and they say, hold up now. Your app is getting really popular. Your company is basically going up in value by the week. You're not going to build $1 billion business off of our catalog without us getting a piece. Hand over the cash. At that time, the Chinese company ByteDance, who is the parent owner, the way how they make money from TikTok, there's a different version of what we call TikTok in China. They didn't have a monetization strategy yet in the USA. So at first it was just to grow the app. You just want to get as many users on the app. So they didn't really have capital. So when the music companies are saying hand over the cash, they don't really got it. Unless you're going to, kind of take their holdings from their other, business in China and do it. But they weren't trying to do that. I always told you guys this story, but everything makes sense. You'll realize how bigger business affect every single decision. I can't remember what year it was. But through my entertainment lawyer, a good Jewish guy in LA, he hit me up. He said, hey, listen, there's this company. They want to have a meeting with you. Are you down to do it? I said, who? This is TikTok. He's like, they really like you. They want to have a meeting with you. At that time, I'm in and out of LA, go there. There's a lot of business things, you're kind of getting like shuffled around to people. Like you're doing the meeting. And you're hearing how everybody's interested in something that you've built that's worth something, and they want to either get part of it or they want to, that's how the game goes. And I'm taking all these meetings and I'm like, all right, fuck it. If they say I should meet with TikTok, let me meet with TikTok. So I walk in and I go meet with TikTok. And I remember they gave me a really nice presentation. I went to Santa Monica. It was their headquarters at the time. And when I went there, they had a conversation with me and they were like, hey, listen, we want you to come onto the platform. Their idea was this. Academics, you have this amazing brand. You're one of the leaders in media, independent media, but media for music. We see you on Instagram. We see you on Twitter. We see you on YouTube. And at the time, we see you on Twitch. We would love if you could bring your brand over here and establish your footprint. Now, I was kind of sitting there like, all right, that sounds like probably the thing I should be doing, but I'm like, I'm trying to get it, right? Now, in the meeting, I learned a few things. And this is why I say you have to understand big business to understand very small things. Because a meeting with me, respectively, it's not worth that much in the grand scheme of things of what we're talking about. By the way, for my business people who like watching me, just listen to the story. I'll get to it, right? But everything makes sense. In the meeting, they tell me, hey, we got some things to offer you. Now I look over to my Jewish entertainment lawyer and I said, I knew you would take me to the money. Let's get to it. Now, I didn't really necessarily go there for money, but it's LA. TikTok said the opposite. They said, we can offer you a lot, just not money. I said, okay, that's confusing. They said, we feel that you might be someone that might understand our vision more than others. And I said, okay, give me the pitch. They bring up another artist, which we will talk about later in some drama shit. But they bring up an artist that at the time they were trying to recruit to TikTok. By the way, I'm going to explain also in a few why they were trying to recruit people. The artist in question was Blueface. They said we had a meeting with Blueface. We wanted to recruit Blueface to TikTok. They said Blueface, I don't know if he took the meeting or how the correspondence went, but Blueface basically told him, if you want me on here, pay me or shut the fuck up. Now, not in those words, but that was basically the conversation. Ultimately, when they told him they would not be able to pay, he says deuces. Now, Blueface was going pretty viral at that time, if you want to match, maybe what year this is. So they tell me they don't have money to offer, but they could offer other things. I'm like, what are these other things? And I'm going to be honest with you. I've always told y'all this. And actually, I think me saying this kind of fucked me over too a bit, because I've seen some shit that I've never seen before. So I never made a TikTok account, but I opened my phone in the meeting and I just made an account, and I forgot what it was like. Sometimes when you can't get the username, you just suggest some other shit, and I made it right there, and they said, okay, that's gonna be your account, and I'm gonna tell you the truth. I've never seen such a thing like this. Right in front of me, across the desk, I see they're on the computer. Someone had the original name Academics. They kicked the person off. Literally. Delete your name. It's like, wow. I'm like, that's kind of quick. I'm talking to the person here. And then they literally tell me, they said, this is what we're going to do. We want to encourage you to be on the platform to post content. We are going to tweak. What they called it to me was flipping a lever. We're going to flip a lever, and it's going to make your visibility 1,000 times. They didn't give me a number. They just said you're going to be focused on, and you're going to gain an audience. And I was like, what are they talking about? Anyway, I sat through the meeting, and I want to tell you that I understood what they meant. For the next 7 days, I went from 0 followers to 700,000, 100,000 followers a day, and I did nothing. That shit I was like, wow. Now, at the end of the day, I felt that was a good meeting for me. The reason why they wanted to have a meeting with me, they felt like they could offer things, and they had like a program. They said, right now, TikTok is all about trends. We make the trends. I'm like, what? It's like, we make the trends. We're going to put you on an email list. I still got the emails. And we're going to email you what's going to trend for the week. If you want to rise to the top of the algorithm, your account is already preferred. Just make anything with that. You're going to go crazy. Now, I didn't really make TikToks, but I just stayed on the platform. But 7 days, 700,000 followers. Now, of course, I think my loud mouth, you getting a finesse. I didn't think it was a finesse. I'm just thinking it's nothing. I'm like, what? I think they took me out of the program, and the lever stopped. Definitely. Because I went from getting 100,000 followers a day, and then afterwards it was like 4,000. So anyway, and I think it's because I mentioned it online. Because I was like in disbelief, right? But you know me, I got a big mouth. Pause. Okay, why am I saying that? The reason that they were recruiting for one singular reason. They were getting pressured by the music industry to cough up a large sum of money for people on the platform that were using their music in the background of their videos. So Universal Music, Sony Music, Music Entertainment, and also Warner Music Group said to TikTok, you're using our motherfucking songs, pay the fuck up. They don't have that much money, but they have the users, and they start to get in a negotiation with UMG, Sony, and Warner to say, hey, you guys are hitting us with a crazy price because you don't understand what we're doing. By the way, the reason why I said Twitch had the same conversation is that UMG pulled up on Twitch, owned by Amazon, the same way at first. Because the music industry usually thinks you're stealing our shit. TikTok and also Twitch, right? They realize in negotiation, if someone thinks you stole from them, the price is probably 10 times more to pay for the theft, as if you could convince the person who thinks you stole from them that you were actually promoting them for free. It's a difference between billions of dollars in what would eventually become a licensing deal. So essentially what TikTok did was, in recruitment, they were trying to get rappers and artists, music media platforms to their platform, that when they are in negotiation with the music labels, they can say, hey, your artists are coming here. Look at how your artist music is getting boosted. They had stats that they would provide to music companies, say, look at this one song. After it went viral on our platform, it went on the charts. We didn't steal. We're promoting for free. With that understanding in mind, the music industry started looking at them a little bit different. Wait, hold on. We're seeing direct correlation between TikTok's trends and songs popping up. Safe to say later on, they secured a deal. They secured a deal. The deal's a licensing deal. It allows TikTok, your favorite, cousin could be on there doing goofy shit. Ty Little could be winding up his waist while he plans his next backdoor. Yep. And you could have whatever song in the background, Drake, Uzi, whatever. That was a licensing deal. So TikTok survived the music companies getting at them. Well, shortly after, the app is now so popular, so influential. I don't know if you've been, don't call me Jay-Z or nothing, okay? By the way, this part's a joke, but don't call me Jay-Z or nothing. But from time to time, I might have dated a girl that might be like 23, right? And if you're with anybody, I think really under 25, they're glued to their phone like this, and they scroll every 2 seconds. It's TikTok. That's it. Okay? And the Jay-Z thing is being tongue in cheek because I think it'd be a little bit younger for I'm playing. Anyway, the point was this. The app is so influential that everybody's now saying, what is in the fucking secret sauce? What is this? Why is it so addicted? How does it have everybody doing these dances? How does it have everybody mind programmed? And it even through social surveys and studies, they come out with some phenomenal stats to say not only Gen Zers, but it's the most addicting app. When you get on it, it's brain rot. You scroll. And I don't know if you know anyone like this, but I know a lot of people like this. Like I hit somebody up or we talk, be like, hey, what are you doing? And, I think for, people in their 30s, like late night, you watch a movie, you put on Netflix, you do something else. There's a lot of people that are, either Gen Zers or they'll just be like, I'm just scrolling TikTok. That's their entertainment. They're just scrolling perpetuity till they fall asleep, which is very different from, historically. People used to watch, your parents may have watched late night TV, right? Oh, we're watching Colbert. We're watching Bill O'Reilly. We're watching, who else? David Letterman. That was the thing. That's how people went to sleep, because that's when, theoretically, if you think about a 24-hour day, people who go to work, that's the time they're free the most. So your parents and grandparents watch late night TV. You and I probably watch Netflix. Your little cousin is on TikTok. Whole time. He's on TikTok. Okay? He's winding up his waist. He's doing all that type of shit. Right? Cool. So everybody says, what's in the sauce? Well, in digging into the app a little bit more, it started to raise some red flags. This app seemed like it was degenerative brain rot. And in looking into the background of the app, people started to become noticeably concerned that the app was owned by ByteDance, a Chinese company, which, by the way, it's not that it's owned by a Chinese company, but we get to realize that the way the app functions in the United States versus how it functions, or its derivative, or its sister version functions in China is very different. It's meant to promote positivity, learning. It's meant to promote community growth. It's a overall representation of what they would like society to be. Also, if you don't know, China has a communist regime. the government has a heavy hand and you're not going to promote fuck shit on here. In America, which we are pretty much not necessarily lawless, but it's all about the monies. We're capitalists. Fuck it. You know what I mean? Promote anything. Who gives a damn, right? But people start raising the red flag saying, wait, how come their shit is saying, let's do this math challenge? And how come our shit is, hey, how about y'all bend your knees and wind your waist like Ty Lil? Okay. The next thing became some concerns about the data. In a time where recently, it was in 2016 at the time, but even 2020, Trump got elected for the first time in 2016, but there was a conversation that there was Russia interference, that Russia tried to infiltrate through media and other sense to affect the election in a way that they could get a leader that could be more conducive to what they wanted to do in the world. So that was outside interference. Well, if you look at what was going on politically, I think we all know now, Russia and China, they're the ops. Not necessarily like we're going to war today or tomorrow, but ideologically, we don't really agree. However, we don't go over there and tell them what to do. Like when we go over to Venezuela, we'll be like, yo, this your new president, right? Like, or we'll like fuck up like Pakistan or something like that. We kind of like, they're bullies and we're bullies, right? We bully everybody else, but China and Russia, we got to leave alone. However, at that time, lawmakers and other people in the country started becoming weary after China repeatedly is starting to like push around and almost trying to tell the U.S., man, you niggas getting pussy out here, man. Like, man, it's a lot of geopolitical, jostling going on. Now, there's a Taiwan story in there. We won't get to that. People realize about our dependency on China. They're making all the chips, whatever. So lawmakers say, wait, hold on. If we're thinking that, yeah, it's a Chinese company, whatever, but if it's the biggest tech company or social media company, given the fact also we had just came off a time where Congress was, there was heavy conversation about censorship, suppression, maybe how much of a role social media suppressing certain views or whatever, how it affected elections. Could China do what people accuse Russia of doing if they control the most popular social media app? Let's say they didn't want a Democrat in office. If they control the app and the algorithm, maybe they could just hit a lever. Now, everything that you're seeing would be representing the other side. It would give them an advantage. That's probably worth billions and probably could tilt and influence how people would vote, flip an election. Powerful. That's how you infiltrate the enemy from outside. Then the data question came up. Well, we're signing up. We're giving addresses, names, shit. I think they might actually feel a little bit of DNA at this point when you're starting to get onto these social media apps. If they know the demographics because they have the signups, and they know the behavior because their algorithm tailored to your behavior, whether you watch a video for 10 seconds or you flip up immediately or you hit don't show me this again or you just like watching bitches or you go to cooking things or you constantly search recipes, whatever, they know your behavior. Without enlisting spies, they have now mapped what the majority or hundreds of millions of people in the United States, how they use or how their behavior is. So it comes up in Congress, we got to get our data from out of China. We got to get it out of China. We find out that the data center is in China. By the way, there was numerous House committee hearings in TikTok where
lawmakers
the CEO and, whoop-de-doo. Hold on.
Chinese government.
The CEO, you guess what he is. It's not like that a black nigga running the shit. Like, China owns us, but since this is the American version, the CEO is black. Yeah, all right. So I remember watching this whole thing. They were grilling all the social media companies. But this guy, he went up there, he said, yo, China, like, we do store U.S. data from TikTok in China. However, we wouldn't give it to the Chinese government. Stop it. Like, I think everybody in that room was like, stop it. Yo, Jackie Chan, cut it out. Yo, Jet Li, get the hell. Yo, if you don't get your Bruce Leroy ass on out of here. But he sat up there and he says, we don't hand over U.S. data. Lo and behold, even Biden, who was asleep at the wheel, heard loud calls from everybody in every corner, every aisle, in politics to other businesses who were competing with TikTok to say, we don't have a version of Facebook over China. Why the fuck does a China company got a version of, what's it called? Douyin, whatever the fuck their version of TikTok is called. Why they got that shit over here? And I get it. The freedom of the market. But why is our data stored over there? So it was then put into the political aisles. Should we ban this company? Or what they call force that company to divest? They ask China, they say, hey, listen, are you down to sell to an American company? ByteDance, which is a Chinese company, said nope. They tried a couple more solutions. They said nope. Ultimately, they said, all right, fuck it. We got to play a hardball with you. We're banning your ass. And after seeing that, their product that's now worth billions, tens of billions, was going to just go poof. Because if you're banned, you're worth nothing. They eventually came to an agreement to divest. Now, this deal was dragging its legs for a while. TikTok was actually off the market for a bit. TikTok realized Trump was one of the main people at first saying, let's get TikTok the fuck out of here because China. But of course, later, when TikTok realized that he was going to be the new commander in chief, because he wasn't at the time, it was Biden, TikTok started supporting him, and actually they show their real power. Allegedly, their algorithm helped Trump gain more promotion than any other political candidate. What happened in 2024? Trump wins re-election. Trump's opinion of TikTok suddenly changed. He actually even said it. I like TikTok now. Here we go.
You wanted to block TikTok. Why did you change your mind?
Because I got to use it. And remember, TikTok is largely about kids, young kids. If China's going to get information about young kids, I don't know. I think.
So he changed his mind. I can't find it necessary clip. The clip that he had after winning the election. I think it was his election speech, right? But he was like, I think I like TikTok now, which is the typical Trump-esque type of thing. You know, Trump is more for self, right? Like, he's unapologetic. Like, yo, listen, if you fuck with me, you know what I mean? Like, Trump will be sitting there next to Nicki Minaj. Nicki Minaj's husband is on the sexual offender registry list, and they'll be both calling out pedophiles. And Trump at no point is going to be like, yo, what's up with your husband? Not at all. You know what I'm saying? You know why? Nicki's supporting him. Who gives a fuck? So that is a Trumpian type of thing. So he switches his mind kind of on TikTok, right? Look.
And as of today.
Yeah, this is at his inauguration, right? Look.
TikTok is back. I said very simply, a joint venture.
Okay, so TikTok, they realize you got to cozy up to Trump to get what you want, kind of like what Nicki Minaj did, and she got what she wanted, that gold card. And Trump says, you know what? Because there was a deadline that they were going to get banned. Trump signs an order to say we're going to extend the deadline. They were dragging their feet. Yes, so it was gone for a while. He brings it back. He extends the deadline. They do it 2 more times. And let me start getting to meat and potatoes, and let's do business 101. As of 2 weeks ago, TikTok has been divested. Okay? I want to give you the details of this deal. And I know some of you guys might be like, oh, why do we care? You're going to have to care. Because as TikTok is still one of the most influential things when it comes to music and music catalog, who owns it and who gets to manipulate it will always matter on what you're seeing. Okay? Remember, the reason we're talking business is that when we get to culture shit, that we have a little bit more information to be armed with, that we don't think everything is random. Things are not happening because there is a puppeteer. And we're going to realize some of the same players who keep coming back and back around. They put out a press release. The press release is dated January 22, 2026. Now, this is the announcement that there's a joint venture. And the joint venture is that it was divested. So ByteDance owned TikTok wholly because technically, and what was decided by the Trump administration and even the Biden administration, is that TikTok cannot be owned by a Chinese company. Now, it's not that it can't be owned at all by a Chinese company. It can't be the majority owner. So divesting means you're going to sell parts of it, and you got to go from being a majority owner to a minority owner. What was agreed upon in Congress is that ByteDance has to sell off or give away or divest at least, it wouldn't be like 49%, 51%, at least 80.1%. So the max they could keep after the thing is like 19, but just a shade under 20%. The deal happened, and let me give you a little bit about some of the partners, and I'm going to tell you why this is all going to matter, because you got to know who's running these companies, because they get to put their imprint on these companies at what we're going to see. So they do this joint venture. Okay, they say apparently it's 200 million Americans and 7.5 billion businesses are still on the platform. I thought it was more. How many people on TikTok? How many? Oh, it's Americans. How many people use TikTok? Oh, 2 billion globally? Okay. Yes, so outside of China, it's one app, right? But the US has like, was it 200-300 million people on there, right? Cool. So cool. So they kind of give this whole little, disclosure. We're doing it for data protection. Now all the U.S. data will be now protected by USDS joint venture in Oracle. Now this is where it's going to get interesting, chat. And this is where, when y'all say why we talk business, because we got to figure out what's really happening in the world. Oracle is a company. They blew up largely because of cloud technology, as people needed more. People needed to access information remotely. They became one of the biggest companies that did cloud technology, usually mostly for business at first, but it kind of spread out and they started doing other things. And, you know, the name you should associate with this is Larry Ellison. Okay, we've spoke about Larry Ellison before, and we've talked about his son, David Ellison. Remember, I told you the Nepo baby stuff. David Ellison is the guy who is running Skydance, not to be confused with ByteDance. That's a Chinese company. He's running Skydance. They're now trying to buy Warner Brothers versus Netflix, who's trying to buy it as well. And they've offered a lot of money. And essentially, their whole bid against Netflix is that we could pay more for this. And they're trying to get the shareholders to say, we could give you more money than Netflix. And when asked by the board of directors for Warner, how could you promise us that we will get paid this? Because companies could go bankrupt. They say, well, you know, David Ellison says, well, my daddy is the second richest guy in the world. Larry Ellison. Okay. Larry Ellison, remember, Oracle. So you get to realize Oracle's doing a lot of things. Oracle's moving it's not necessarily like an investment firm like that, but it's leveraging a lot of stuff. It's moving on some BlackRock shit. I'm gonna keep it a bean, right? Anyway, here's the interesting thing. And this is where I think, I wouldn't want to get into like the political minutiae, but I like the business behind politics. So remember I told you Trump, and he just said, I saved TikTok. So he was signing these executive orders to say, despite the law that says TikTok either has to sell by this date or be banned, he pushed the date back with executive orders. And when he pushed the date back, part of kind of having Congress be okay with that is saying that, hey, listen, we're in a remedial stage of figuring out a deal. And that's why I'm giving an extension. And at that time, he got TikTok to agree to store the U.S. data that they used to have in China, but they would be storing it in the USA. Guess what company he picked before this deal happened? He picked Oracle. So Oracle was going to be the place that was going to be in charge of securing U.S. data. Why? Well, that's where politics as usual come in. The Ellison family, even though this time around they weren't the biggest donors or supporters politically, Elon Musk was $200 million donated to this political campaign or election season. Larry Ellison did a lot of private fundraisers for Trump. Rocks for Trump. This guy is a good guy to him, right? Now, maybe it's coincidence, but you're going to realize we keep mentioning the same people. There ain't no coincidences. So essentially, this guy who's been, he's the second richest guy in the world. He's been, doing these little billionaire fundraisers for Trump when Trump was about to go through his reelection again. He's, they're kind of aligned here, right? Also, after, as part of Trump got paid $60 million, right? Trump gets paid $60 million from CBS. Trump, $60 million CBS. It's a lawsuit over 60 Minutes where they deceptively edited a Kamala Harris interview, okay? And they paid that money. Check out how crazy this is. This is so ill. I hope you guys are following. So Paramount, remember I told you, Paramount eventually gets bought by this company called Skydance. Skydance is founded by Larry Ellison's son, David Ellison. Right when Skydance is about to buy Paramount, part of trying to, close all the business deals is them paying out Trump $16 million. Remember, Trump, Ellison, just always think about that. So they fuck the lawsuit. They just give Trump $16 million, right? Then the company gets bought by Skydance. Okay? So they pay Trump $16 million. And I'm just trying to show you, again, I'm not trying to accuse necessarily Trump and these guys to be in collusion, but come on, you know what runs the fucking world. Trump and the Ellison family. So it's safe to say the reason why Trump got the $60 million as a settlement is because the company was going to be bought by Larry Ellison's son, David Ellison. So Trump gets $60 million. Also, the father is having a bunch of David Ellison Trump fundraiser. Yeah, he did a bunch of he's doing fundraisers for Trump, this and third, whatever. You get what I'm saying? So essentially, these guys are really cozied up. Now, maybe it's, Oracle is the biggest cloud company in the world. Or maybe it's just because it's Trump's homie. Trump picks Oracle as the company to store U.S. data from TikTok until they figure out the deal. So in the waiting period, let my homie's company store all the data. Take it from the Chinese. Fuck them. But let my homie's company store the data. Maybe it's coincidence. By the way, there's another deeper rabbit hole with the Elon and Trump shit. And that's why Elon got tight. And that's why Elon spilled later. Yo, Trump, you in them goddamn files, nigga. You in them files. That's another rabbit hole we'll get to on a business level. Maybe another day. I don't know if you guys enjoy these, but I really do. Okay. Because this is real drama. This is drama with political implications for you and me. It's a lot of implications, a lot of financial implications too. So cool. So now we're at the deal. Remember, this is the announcement from last week of the deal. So while this was happening, right, Oracle had the data, right? Now, here's what's going to happen with the algorithm. The algorithm is going to be retrained, retested, and updated to make sure it's going to be in the, benefit of the U.S., that it's not subverted by some Chinese agenda. And the recommendation algorithm will be secured on Oracle. So remember this coveted secret sauce. How the fucking Chinese? It's like Chinese food. You ever ate a piece of chicken from Chinese food? I don't know if I ate cat. I don't know if this was a rat. If this shit tastes. What part of the chicken is this? One of those. But I hope you're following. So Oracle gets the data while we're waiting to get the deal. But the deal is here now. And we're hearing that the secret sauce that everybody wanted, which is the algorithm, will be now overseen by Oracle. Larry Ellison. There's some software assurances, some trust and safety vanguards that are safeguards actually that are put into to the deal to make sure that it could not have any type of corruption later on. Now, they do some restructuring. I don't think you guys care about who these guys are, but what should be interested to you guys is who now owns TikTok. So, as part of the divesting, okay? As part of the divesting, I'm going to point out a few things. ByteDance retained the most of what the law said they could have, which is 19.9% of TikTok. So the Chinese company still keeps 19.9%, but they're no longer majority. So now 80.1% is to other people. Here are the other people, and everybody was bidding to get it. Remember, Mark Zuckerberg won it. Everybody wants it. We got billionaires. Everybody wants it. The guy who owns Rumble was saying, hey, we'll get along with some people. We got to buy TikTok. TikTok is the shit. Well, because the government was brokering the deal, the government kind of got to pick who are going to be the people who got to own pieces of TikTok. Who you think they picked? Well, Oracle owns 15% of it. So Oracle gets 15%. There's this investment group called Silver Lake. They own 15%. And MGX, they own 15%. Now, I want to give you a little bit. Silver Lake is a investment group. I can't remember what they really specialize in. I can look it up in a second. But MGX, they're the Saudis. Now, I know you might be like, why the hell did we go sell part of TikTok to some Saudi Arabian niggas? You know what I mean? Like, one of them, like, I don't know about that part of the world. So I don't know if UAE, Saudi Arabia, close, whatever. Anyway, why the fuck? Well, this company they specialize in AI. Oh, and I didn't miss part of the story for y'all. I missed part of the story for y'all in the Oh, actually, we'll get to that afterwards. They specialize in AI. Okay. So it's a Saudi company, but they specialize in AI. They have 15%. Oracle has 15%, and Silver Lake Group, they have 15%. Okay. Other than that, and by the way, also with that, they get CapCut, which is the app, Lemonade, or whatever the case is, right? There's a couple other people who get pieces of TikTok. So already now we have 45%. So 20% ByteDance keeps. 40% is over here. So that leaves 20 and 45. That's 65. So there's 35% left, and it gets split up among a bunch of people. And I think you guys are getting my drift here. How do you think these people are picked? Random? Just pick it like bingo? Put your hand in the box? Or do you think whatever it is, just think about it? Now, we all know money runs the world, but it's important to know who has parts of this because it's going to matter in decisions we see later. It's the reason why I tell you that, Chinese have also been trying to, like Tencent, they keep buying up the music industry. They own part of Universal. Why do the Chinese who don't speak motherfucking English keep buying part of English music industry? We'll get to that another day. So Michael Dell, the guy who founded Dell, he gets some Vasmir. Okay. It's a bunch of people like you'll know some of these names. You're seeing companies, or you'll know some of these names if you kind of like look up what they do or what they're associated with. But these are no like bums. These are guys and women who are already heavily funded, and they're heavily invested all over the place. Okay. Now, the way how this was picked, I think that's going to be the controversial part. Feels like everybody who cozied up to Trump got TikTok. Okay. So if you were an op of Trump, and this is why, let me give you like a quick joke. And I know you have like an act that you're dragging this, but this is business. We got to talk business, right? It was so interesting. Hold on. Was it Apple? It was so interesting that the Apple CEO donated $1 million to Trump and the inauguration, right? To Trump's inauguration, okay? Tim Cook, he's donating to Trump. He gives Trump some gold shit. He's Trump's best friend now, right? And it just goes to show that these guys, there is no moral character. It's only business. And politics is big business now. Also, we don't have to watch the video necessarily. Actually, I like to just show the video. All right.
This box was made in the U.S. This glass comes on before.
Now, when he's doing the song and dance, you have a new commander-in-chief. He has a lot of, remember, Trump literally did save TikTok. He pretty much all the people who sucked up to him, or all the people who got to buy TikTok, if you want to do some big shit, you better be cool with Trump, at least for the next 4 years or 3 years, I guess, whatever.
Warning line. It's a additional $100 billion.
He pledged $100 billion. He loves Trump. Now, the irony. Let's go to Mark Zuckerberg. Now, Mark Zuckerberg, okay? Now, I just want to show you this one ironic thing. So we have Elon, Jeff Bezos, Amazon, okay? Mark Zuckerberg, Meta. Now, the interesting part of this, right? Remember, this guy owns Twitter. This guy owns Instagram and Facebook. This guy owns Amazon. The reason why I'm saying it's business as usual, y'all remember in, at the end of his term in 2020, Trump got banned. Trump got banned from social media. Yet when he finally wins again, guess who's right there cozying up, laughing like they didn't ban him from their platform, sending a message like he was a fascist or whatever. The guy who owns Meta, you had to agree with the ban, which, by the way, he later walked us all back saying they were being they were being told what to do by Biden's government. So now Biden's out of there. They're fuck with Trump. You get what I'm saying? So you see him kicking it. They banned Trump on Twitch. They banned him like it was me. Who owns Twitch? Amazon. Who's the guy for Amazon? Him. They're all cool now. You know what I mean? Basically, all you got to do is win. Right? Anyway. So all Trump homies, they own TikTok now. Right. And I know I dragged the story out for a long time, but I hope if you kind of listen to this, I don't know if you're interested in business or whatever, but these are the things that kind of, matter. The last business thing, and not necessarily has to do with politics particularly, but it has to do with the music industry, is just like I just mentioned with Trump and how Trump through, TikTok got taken off the market and he brought it back on the market. So TikTok had to listen to him and pretty much do whatever he wants. They had to be his bitch, right? That's how negotiations work. You got to walk away from the table. TikTok wasn't agreeing. They thought the U.S. was bullshit and said, nah, y'all ain't going to ban us. We too big. We TikTok. Banned. And after they get banned, oh shit, you know what I mean? That's when you get the best deal done. Similarly, what happened in the music industry. So in 2024, I'm not sure if you guys remember this, UMG removes music from TikTok. Okay? In early 2024. Now, remember I told you UMG licensed their music to TikTok? Well, every couple of years, they got to re-up the license, right? Same with, all these places that use UMG's music. Is you don't own it. You can't buy a permanent license. You license it for a little bit and you come back. It's like when these television networks license the NBA products. They got to come back and do these TV deals. Now, the reason why this happened wasn't actually maybe what you think. It wasn't necessarily about money, even though UMG and usually the music business, they're very money hungry, right? It's the reason why they look at anybody playing their music as complete theft. They look at stealing. So they're not thinking promotion. They think you stole money from me, right? And oftentimes they got to get convinced that it's not stealing, it's actually promotion. There's a symbiotic mutual type of understanding that they could come to where this company helps you promote easier and this and third, you should be leveraging, not trying to, get them out of there, right? When this happened, UMG realized that TikTok was getting his arm twisted by the U.S. government. So the U.S. government, and so it piggybacks off the other thing I was telling you about, right? So remember this whole thing, like Trump is saying, y'all got to figure this shit out now. Everybody in Congress in Washington is saying, we're going to ban you. Universal takes advantage of that and says, you know what? Yeah, fuck y'all. Take our music off of there. They do it during negotiation. Why do they do it? Well, some would say, well, that's the best time for you to get the most amount of money. Now, again, they're money hungry, but that wasn't necessarily what their aim was. Their aim actually was, unlike in the 2000 era, right? And if you guys know the history of music, back in 2000s, labels were being told that, hey, the product of a physical CD, people are now getting easier ways to rip. The technology is becoming up to standard and up to par to deal with these WAV and MP3 files. and they could be transferred peer to peer in a way that's unregulated, and it could be duplicated in perpetuity, which means once someone gets your physical product, they could then give it to everybody in the world, which eliminates the need for them to buy your physical product again. The music industry says, fuck y'all. We don't believe that shit. Y'all ain't about to do that. Well, here comes Napster, here comes Kazaa, here comes all the music piracy piracy companies. And what ends up happening, the music industry goes in a tailspin. Piracy fucks everything up. They don't know what to do. Everybody's losing money. And it's not until later they kind of figure out that streaming is a viable option to try to combat that. Because at first they were trying to fight piracy, through the courts. This is where, they were taking aim at different things. We even see that they're like, yo, look at these mixtape guys. Let's DJ Drama and them get arrested. They're trying to sue Napster and all these other places. Doesn't necessarily work out. They're basically chasing their tail around. It was a never ending thing. And the movie industry was going through it too as well. So during that time, they learned a very valuable lesson. If you see a disruption come into your business practice, you need to figure it out before you get there. When they told you beforehand that people could duplicate CDs and share the songs without ever needing to go back to Best Buy to buy another CD, you should do something now to stay ahead of that. They didn't. They learned. In the early 2020s, the biggest conversation has been if their leverage on every company that needs music is their catalog, their biggest competitor is AI. There's a couple of companies that will completely make an AI song for you. We've seen during the Drake and Kendrick battle, there were songs that would come out completely in Drake's voice or even Kendrick's voice or whatever rapper's voice. And there was companies that were now getting a startup that was saying, hey, listen, we could just use the voice of Lil Uzi. I love, you guys might not like this. Lil Uzi Vert, Codeine Crazy. This is AI. We'll play in a second. Uzi never said those words, but the AI and the technology is so good that, you could use someone's voice to do a song that somebody else did. Now, it creates a lot of legal problems, but also business problems as well, right? Future signed to Sonic Music Entertainment. Uzi signed to Atlantic through Warner Music Group. Those are two competing companies. How does this happen? The artist is not sanctioning this. The artist's production group, Generation Now, is not sanctioning this. This is somebody in their bedroom just using an app to make something real quick. People are going to listen to this that like it's going out of style because I like Uzi, I like Future, I like Codeine Crazy. This is a nice little mix. This is like a different version. There's one with Juice WRLD too. I think it's amazing. Like there's a couple Juice WRLD-esque songs that got redone. I loved it. Also, here's the thing. I hate to say it and hate to be a little bit morbid, but the music industry makes a lot of money off dead people. When an artist dies, their catalog is memorialized, usually idolized, and usually gets played in perpetuity because that's the last remembrance of that artist. AI was threatening that. People were now able to use and manipulate voices of people who were dead to act like there was new music, could confuse the market. It could fuck up the current market share of what was already baked in the cake that required no promotion. For example, Drake used Tupac's voice, and Tupac's voice is now rapping this in Kendrick Lamar without permission. So essentially what turned out and ended up happening is that the UMG bosses, and really I would imagine bosses at also Sony Music Entertainment and also Warner Music Group, they also started thinking, we got to get a handle of this. We can't have a repeat of the early 2000s. One of their ways to combat that, they start filing lawsuits. Okay, they filed the lawsuit. Some of these companies, one of them is called Suno, the other one's called Udio. UMG sues Udio. Yes, here we go. This is another. Ooh, we gotta talk about this another time. Remind me. This is another thing. Somebody just stole the entire music catalog of all the labels, and they're trying to put them out for free, not as streaming, just have them there that people could download. And there's a big lawsuit over that. The big business with that too. I'm gonna get to it. There's a lot of money involved. But let me show you this. UMG sues Udio, and it looks like that has been settled. That has been settled, but they are trying to prevent AI. And have you noticed that AI music has gotten a lot less attention? By the way, they have started to make deals with social media companies to suppress the popularity of any AI identified music that feature their artists. So it's not just AI music. If you want to make AI music, cool, but if you use Drake's voice, it shouldn't be like the most popular thing on social media. Why? The labels are talking to social media companies, and these are pre-litigation talks to make sure this doesn't happen. So the Universal is moving behind the scenes to make sure that AI music that infringes on their rights do not get popular, and they put a stop to it, that we don't have another tailspin. Okay. Now, last October, Universal Music actually announced that it settled a copyright infringement litigation against the AI music platform called Udio. Okay. It says in the announcement that it'll collaborate on an innovative new commercial music creation, consumption, streaming experience, and that platform is going to be in 2026. So they're basically saying, Universal basically said, you're fucking stealing our artist's voice and their likeness or whatever, and like retraining it with AI. We're going to own your company, but we like the technology. We'll work with you. Maybe you could assist us to get new artists or do some new ventures. And, they probably don't have the money at this point to like fight with Universal. They've settled. Okay. They've also sued Suno. You used to see those videos with Suno right there. What people would be able to do is to kind of use the likeness and voice and other things of artists and kind of put them in compromising position, or even put them in musical situations where they're performing. So Universal really has a beef with AI. So while TikTok was getting his arm twisted by the government, Universal actually said, hey, matter of fact, we're going to walk away from the table. We want to control how AI and music gets put on your platform. Now, TikTok, they're not fond of that idea that much. I'm going to tell you why. Because an app that kind of benefits off of filters, background noises, like recently I just did like my first TikTok, like it was for Kashi, like the green screen thing, right? Like they benefit from filters and other things. So AI could help them in making TikTok easier for users and better for users, and better content means more people come in there and this and third. So they weren't really trying to say no to AI, and Universal saying no, fuck AI. So what Universal did, it says, you think we playing? Take all our music down now. So there's a period of time in early 2024 that there was no Taylor Swift, no Drake, no Olivia Rodrigo. And that was solely because TikTok did not respect the rights of the UMG artist catalog. And by the way, artists were kind of with UMG in a rare move, because usually artists don't like their label, but they agree, like, imagine your favorite rapper is now competing with a AI version of himself that's making better songs. He's high as hell in the studio. He fell off already. And there's some kid that got the sauce, but now he's using your favorite artist's voice making better songs. Like, you see what a pickle that could be. So the artists agreed with the labels. Yeah, fuck that AI shit. You know what I mean? Like, we can't give them other options. What the hell? Like, I'm not going to lie to you. I heard some AI songs that were better than the actual artist song. They were both in the same voice. So that was a problem. Okay. Now, there's a quick interview, and that will be that's my business. What day was today? Monday? That's my Business Monday rundown for you of TikTok and what's going on. And I'll give you a little forecast of what I think is going to happen, and then we'll just move to other topics. But so there's a recent interview that just came out. Where is it? Billboard. Is it this? Let's see. I had it here. Hold on. Oh, what really happened with UMG and TikTok? All right. It's a YouTube video. Here we go. Yeah, Billboard put this out 4 days ago.
How is the world's biggest music company?
By the way, I spend a lot of, if you wonder what I watch or whatever, after I'm done watching all the bullshit and I go into the female T pages to see who's fucking who, I usually have to enrich my mind, and music business worldwide is really good. There's one for radio and some of the sort like that. And actually Billboard itself is a really good website. It's not really just only for charts. The charts is just one portion of it. But Billboard Pro, you guys should, if you ever care about music business, you should read stuff over there as well. All right. Anyway, so Billboard does this piece and they start talking about what happened with UMG. And here we go. So we hear about why UMG boycotted TikTok. It's a little bit boring. This guy's kind of ugly. But, I'll let you listen to like 2-3 minutes of it. Then I'll give you the my forecast and we'll get out of this topic. Again, I'm sorry for not the most exciting topic, but if you're anything like me, topics like this is what I like.
Some of the best protections that we have in any agreement with a music service in terms of AI protection and what we call anti-dilution, meaning that artist royalties won't be diluted by pure AI content.
That's so interesting.
So you heard what he said. And by the way, this is the chief digital officer and executive vice president that's speaking. They don't want their revenue to be diluted by this content, right? Which is the AI content.
Interesting to hear this. At the time, because I was reporting on this issue as it developed, I have to admit, towards the tail end of UMG.
Okay, sure.
Get to the outcome. Certainly, a company like Universal, a large, diverse stable of artists, a lot of voices, a lot of perspectives. We understand the importance of access to that platform, for our artists. And that's why we worked really hard to secure a new agreement. I would say by and large, the strong level of support in the music community around the position that we took.
Yeah. So basically the artists agreed. Which I really think the artists didn't want to compete with AI versions of themselves. Clearly, right? Because at first, at first, the conversation when AI stuff started popping up was, okay, let's think about ownership. Well, even if you made it, so technically I could record a song and use an AI program to have it mastered, right? In the voice of Drake. Who owns the song? Is it me or is it Drake? Well, I guess I'm a composer. I wrote it, or if I came up with the lyrics, or I performed it. But it's in his voice, which he would own. That's an innate intellectual property of his, right? Which is pretty much owned by Universal. So who really owns it? That was going to be a whole legal fight, which I don't think these companies were willing to fight on behalf of their users. I think they were going to just say whatever. So at first the conversation was Universal was going to say, if you drop a song in Drake's voice, that's our song now. We're going to make all the money. You're never going to make no money. So if you want to make us free music, cool. We're just going to monetize of it. And it felt like it was going to be an easy thing to get mad revenue for the music business until they realized, well, you know what? It's going to confuse the market of the existing songs. Also, not only about who could monetize off it and own it, how do we add this to the catalog, right? And then the artists themselves said, wait, nigga, right now I'm making trash music. You got some kid who liked me from 3 years ago who's making songs like me, but now using my voice, and that shit's hot. So they're not coming to me no more. And I can't post his song. I'll be a fraud. If I post his song, so the artist supported.
Was very helpful in enabling us to secure the right deal going forward.
Now TikTok has sold its U.S. branch and things are going to change there. Do you think that will impact the platform and its relationship to music discovery in the music industry? Do you think that it'll still have as much power as it has previously had under new leadership?
It will be really interesting to see. There's still some elements of the equation, like technologically with the platform, with the algorithm, how all that's going to play out.
Yeah.
The new management structure will be put in place. A lot of changes for the company. And I can't comment too much because,
Yeah, you won't comment too much because, and this is what I'm trying to say. UMG knew all this was going to happen. They need to get the AI thing out of the way. The AI thing is out of the way. They knew that a U.S. company was going to influence it. And now they realize this algorithm, the secret sauce that used to make this app be able to pop off songs left and right. It's up in the air if it will continue to do so, but they could possibly, because they're ahead of the game. Remember, 2000s behind the 8 ball. That's why music business is a tailspin. Now they're ahead of the game. Maybe they could influence it. The music industry, I always tell you this. The reason why the music industry is a very tough business to be in and why they give these really, really shitty contracts, other than the fact that everybody's greedy. But the reason they give these really shitty contracts, imagine being a business, right? Like if you sell iPhones, you produce a phone, someone needs a phone, they buy the phone. It's simple supply and demand. The thing with music is that it's not a one-to-one relationship in what you produce versus what people want. It's actually like this amalgam of complicated. It's art. So it's like, how could everybody wants to have a number one song. You think labels don't want to have 15 Not Like Us a year, but you can't predict it. You can't predict what artist, what time. And here, you're basically in a gambling economy or a gambling business if to predict revenue is based upon these things you can't predict, right? So it's not like you're like, okay, obviously certain things they can, like, okay, Taylor Swift is coming out. We know she's going to sell whatever. But they can't predict a hit record. They can't predict a flop, like intuitively, because they can't control the minds of people. They can't control how one song will do, and that's their product. So they're kind of gambling. So the way how you make a business of that is that if you can't control this product, you control everything else that could have control on the product. What does that mean? You try to control Spotify because Spotify controls playlists and playlist affects music and how it does. So you try to control Spotify. UMG, they have some interest in Spotify, equity wise. And it's for that reason. You try to control radio. You control all the parameters to make sure that gamble that you're taking with every song you put out that you may have paid whatever for is not necessarily a gamble anymore. And you could make, let's not say assumptions, let's say educated guess. You take the guesswork out of it. So here's the new way. Like, how the music business was like, they were in shambles recently because a song could pop off based on the algorithm. A song could pop off by a random kid that did some funny shit that made a stupid song and is the most viral thing on TikTok. And now the music industry's catching up with that. That's not good for business. That person's independent. He's not under a contract already. That's not good for business. So what I'm telling you, what this guy's alluding to, but he's not going to say, is that if UMG has any shot at it or any influence or anything to say, they want to be able to do what they do to Spotify and others. We control the algorithm, nigga. Fuck that. There ain't no, fuck all that. Oh, you 15 years old and you popped off with a new song with a cool dance. Fuck that. We control what's hot. And you know what they're going to say is hot? The people we signed. You get it. I know you do.
Obviously, the ongoing negotiations of confidential nature in place.
But they have ongoing negotiations about how maybe their algorithms are going to be tailored to. So what I'm really trying to say, if UMG has its way, the algo, at least musically, will never be the same. It will never be like, random people popping off. Right? Remember, we kept seeing people just like top of the Billboard and like, oh, this is a TikTok song. UMG don't like that. They want what's top of the Billboard. They want to run it like radio. Like radio has always been ran. We give you what's going to be hot. You make it hot. That's why they had radio programming. Spotify. We tell you what's going to run y'all playlist. Apple Music, we tell you what's going to run y'all playlist. Right? So you're not gambling anymore. If I get to control what's hot, it's basically a Ponzi scheme, right? Anyway, not really, but kind of. Anyway, I'll let you hear 2 more minutes of this, and I just gave the forecast, so we're kind of done.
But I think that having a U.S. TikTok entity with the importance of music in the U.S. market, and what we feel, with Universal Music, the importance we bring to partnership in a U.S. centric conversation is a good position to be in. So we're looking forward to engaging in conversations to try to figure out what the next win-win looks like.
Yeah, I'm super interested to see how the algorithm changes personally. Because, artists are like living and dying by this algorithm, trying to chase it and all of its changes over time. So I'm very curious to see how that shapes up. But I wanted to move on to AI because we can't get away from that topic.
Okay, so I think we'll end it there. And I just want to do a poll real quick. 1 in the chat if you enjoyed this segment, 2 in the chat if you didn't, and 3 if you did, but it wasn't too long. Again, I like to go through these breakdowns because I guess I went through an hour of conversation to tell you that the algo is going to change right now. Right now, the algo is going to change. And when you stop seeing what you've seen and we're talking about music and we're like, this conversation is going to memorialize why it happened. Right? More to come. All right. Thank you guys, by the way. Yeah, you guys seem to, you guys watch me. I know we're like-minded to some extent. All right, guys. It looks like let's get to some bullshit. I know it's late, but